This is absolutely crazy. This woman here went on babbling. I don't know what about. I can't really understand her. Maybe you guys will be able to understand a little bit more as we watch this. But she went on talking about how the Christian God doesn't exist and her reasonings behind it. I definitely got some things to say about it. Let's get into this.
Would you recommend to women to have sex before marriage?
What is marriage?
When a man and a woman come together as one.
Man and
under
woman?
Under the umbrella of God.
God?
Right.
Everybody has a different interpretation of who God is.
Do you believe in God?
I believe, okay, I am not a Christian, but I do believe in God. And I think that part of the disconnect that we have is that there are certain people that feel that the Christian God is the only God and the only valuable God that there is. So therefore, they use the interpretations that were written in the Bible, who was written by people who believed in the premise of this particular type of God, and then created all of these rules and regulations on that premise. And like I said, when you start with a false premise, everything else that you conclude after that will be false. And so,
yeah, but who's to say that it's false? It really just sounds like she's coming from the standpoint of not agreeing with what's in the Bible. You believe in God, but you don't believe his word. God said that that's his word. A lot of people like to say that, oh, I believe in God. No, what you're believing in is that herbal gerbil of higher power. But you can't believe in God. You can't even know him if you don't try him at his word. If you don't read his word and get to know him in his word, you cannot possibly know who he is. So how can you believe in something that you don't even want to agree and submit to the doctrine, if you will, that's talked about him, that how we learn about him, how we get to know him, how we build a relationship with him. Let's keep this going.
for some people, if you believe in this Christian God or the God of the
But
Bible,
you said as though it's a negative. What's wrong with being a Christian?
I don't feel that there's anything
You're
wrong.
like, I'm not a Christian.
I am personally not a Christian.
But why
And
not? I'm sorry to hear that.
I believe that the God that is depicted in the Christian Bible is a very violent, a very vindictive, a very jealous, and a very petty God.
Why do you?
See, what people forget to realize here, and this is my issue in that situation, a lot of people always want to discredit the Bible or even walk away and turn away from God because they, for that same exact reason, feel that he's violent, feel that he's jealous. Yes, it says clearly in the Bible that he is a jealous God. But let me just take this down, bring it down to reality, something a little bit more tangible. The God that a lot of people find too violent, too jealous, petty, as she even said, that's the same God who sacrificed not one of many, but his only begotten son. So I like to think that if we could just come down to reality just for a second, and we really put ourselves in that position, if I sacrificed my only begotten son for the sins of the entire world, I think I too would be a little bit jealous. Maybe even a lot jealous if people did not want to come to me, if people did not want to acknowledge that fact, if people were ungrateful of that. But I feel like in this realm, we see it as something that's so narcissistic, something that's just so out of this world that we couldn't possibly comprehend why God would be a jealous God. Why God, you see, people say that he's violent. He's not a violent God. He's not violent. But see, what people fail to realize is that there is a wrath to God. There is a wrath to him that we don't want to see. And most of us don't endure it. Actually, none of us endure it, actually, because we're all operating under this thing called grace. Every day, day in and day out, we're operating under this thing called grace. So none of us are really experiencing the wrath of God. So how can we say that he's violent? Yeah, you're saying in the Bible it's being depicted as he's violent. Well, why? Because the flood that he sent in? Well, yes, he is God, which means he's all powerful, which means that he does have the power and the might to do things that he needs to do, to control the world and to guide the world and protect the world in any capacity, in any way that he thinks that he needs to do that. But I do not think that that makes him a violent God in a sense that we are fearful of him. Yeah, we have fear of him, which means great reverence of him, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be fearful of him, that we have to be scared of him. I want to go back just a little bit because it's just, I feel like she doesn't really have a real reason as to what God she's saying that she believes in. Because she doesn't believe in the Christian God, but I didn't know that there was a Christian God. I just thought that there was just one God. And yes, Christians so happen to believe in that one God. So I'm not really understanding what she was really saying by Christian God. And I believe in God, but I don't believe in the God that's depicted in the Bible. I feel that people say that because there's probably things in her life. This boils down to accountability, and this happens in all of us. There's things in our lives and there's things in people's lives that they really feel convicted on. I feel like people that are in these situations are running from conviction. You're running from conviction because you know that there's things that are going on. You know that there's thought processes that you have. There's behaviors that you have. There's character traits that you've possessed. There's certain things that are going on that you know that you may need to change, or that you know that are not in alignment with what you're reading in the Bible. So instead of self-reflecting, instead of changing something about ourselves, what happens is I feel that a lot of people go to this position and this standpoint right here, where they start to say that actually the God that's depicted in the Bible is wrong. That's not the right God. The God that I believe in is a God that is just all flowers, all peaches and cream, all rainbows. Everything is perfect, almost like a genie, And that is not the case. Let's keep this going.
I believe that the God that is depicted in the Christian Bible is a very violent, a very vindictive, a very jealous, and a very petty God.
Why do you believe that?
Read the stories of the Old Testament.
So would you recommend?
So she doesn't understand what marriage is. She's saying in the beginning, what is marriage? It's everything of like, oh, let me just think. Let me be spiritual, but let me just be overly spiritual to the point where I have to question any and everything, to the point where even a simple question about marriage, I have to question that. A marriage is between a man and a woman. Simple. People know that since they're kids. Little girls grow up dreaming about their dream weddings. I don't understand this. I feel that I hope that no one is going to be in an agreement with how she's talking and her standpoint in this and what she's doing, because I don't see any good in that. I don't see any common sense in that. I feel that it's a run around the bush. I feel that it's one of those things where on the inside, she knows exactly what the Bible is saying is right. You know it, but you've come to whatever knowledge she's come to. And you've come to whatever realization, and now you have all these philosophical thoughts and ideas, and it's not helping you. It's not helping you. The reality of it is, in the beginning, they must have had an interview about whether or not women should be having, sex with multiple partners. But I just wanted to show this particular part here because I felt that there was a lot of people that really find themselves in these positions. And then you get surrounded by people like this that end up feeding you this babble. You know what I mean? And it's not productive for you. It's not helping you. All it does is, like I said, it just puts you in this philosophical place where you're just thinking all these higher thoughts and, oh, it sounds good. Oh, I'm so spiritual. But in reality, you're just going against the grain and you're fighting against the grain for no absolute reason when you don't have to be fighting that hard, when it doesn't even have to be that difficult. And I feel like people in these situations, that's exactly what they do. Make things way more difficult than what they have to be. That's all I got for you guys on this one, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you stayed this long, I'm out.